The papers had been signed for months, but the silence in my apartment still felt like a fresh wound. At 28, I had imagined myself building a family, not dismantling one. My divorce had taken more than my marriage. It had taken my sense of belonging. The nights were the worst. The cold walls seemed to lean in, and the hum of the refrigerator was my only company. I would sit on the couch with a blanket wrapped around me, pretending to watch TV, but my eyes would blur, and my mind would circle back to the same thought: no one was coming home to me anymore. I told myself I'd rebuild, even if I had to do it brick by brick. That's when I met Lena. She was 27, with a kind of warmth that could cut through any winter. We met at a friend's small gathering, and she'd found her way to me as if drawn by some invisible thread. She had this habit of listening, really listening, like my words were the most important thing in the room. Her laughter was easy, unforced, and when she looked at me, I didn't feel like the divorced woman picking up the pieces of a failed marriage. I just felt seen. It didn't take long before our conversations spilled past midnight, our coffee dates turned into dinners, and our dinners into lazy Sundays on my couch. I told myself I was being cautious, but the truth was, I was falling fast. Lena moved in after only a few months. It felt natural, almost inevitable. We shared bills, groceries, and the small responsibilities that come with living together. But the most precious thing we shared was the bed. Not in the way people might think. It wasn't about passion every night. It was the quiet comfort of her arm over my waist, the steady rhythm of her breathing beside me. I had been so afraid of empty nights, and now there were none. One evening, curled up together after a long day, I told her the truth I hadn't told anyone else since my divorce. "I can't go through being left again, Lena," I whispered, my voice catching. It almost broke me the first time. I don't think I'd survive it again. She tightened her arms around me. "Era, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere," she said softly, pressing her lips to my hair. "You're safe with me." Her reassurance sank deep into me, wrapping around the wounds I thought would never heal. I let myself believe her, believe in us. Still, there were small moments, rare but noticeable, when her eyes would cloud over if I asked about her past. She would change the subject quickly, or answer in half sentences that left more questions than answers. I told myself it didn't matter. We were building our life now together, and that was enough. At least, that's what I thought. It was a Wednesday afternoon, the kind that slips by without asking for attention. I was halfway through folding laundry, my hair pulled into a loose bun, the faint hum of the washing machine filling the apartment. Then came a knock, firm, deliberate, not the kind that belonged to a neighbor borrowing sugar. I opened the door and froze. A woman stood there in a fitted cream blazer, the kind you only saw in glossy magazines. Her hair was sleek, her makeup precise, and she carried herself like she was walking into a boardroom instead of my small apartment. A subtle but expensive perfume drifted toward me, warm, rich, and intentional. "Hello," she said, her voice low and measured. "I'm Clara." I blinked, trying to place her face, but there was no flicker of recognition. "Can I help you?" She tilted her head slightly, her gaze drifting past me into the apartment. "I'm here for Lena. I'm her ex-girlfriend." The words landed like a stone in my stomach. My grip tightened on the doorframe. "Her ex?" "Yes." She smiled faintly, but it wasn't warm. It was the kind of smile someone uses when they already know they have the upper hand. "We were together for years. And I want her back." I tried to process the layers of that sentence, but she kept speaking before I could find the right words. "She didn't tell you, did she?" Clara's tone was almost amused. "We were serious. Lived together. I'm sure she's told you something about her past, but maybe not the full story." My chest tightened. I had asked Lena about her past before. She had brushed it aside, said it wasn't worth talking about. Now, standing in front of this woman, I felt a strange combination of anger and disbelief pressing in on me. "And you are, what? Just here to announce that?" My voice was sharper than I intended. Clara's eyes glittered. "I'm here because I can give her the life she deserves." "Can you?" The question sliced through me. She didn't raise her voice, but the weight of it made me feel small. As if sensing the tension, Lena appeared from the hallway. Her hair was slightly damp from a shower, her expression caught between surprise and something I couldn't read.
Clara, what are you doing here?
What I should have done months ago, Clara replied smoothly, her gaze never leaving Lena's. I'm here to take you home. My eyes shot to Lena, waiting, needing her to say something, to explain, to deny whatever this was. Instead, she looked between us like she was weighing something invisible in the air. Her hands were in her pockets, her shoulders slightly hunched, as if she wanted to disappear into the space between us.
Lena.
My voice cracked despite myself.
What is this?
She didn't answer right away. Her eyes shifted down, then back up at Clara. That silence spoke louder than any words could. You didn't tell her? Clara asked, feigning surprise. You didn't tell her we were married? Well, divorced now technically, but we were more than what you've been to her. I felt as though the floor tilted beneath me. Married. Divorced. To her boss.
The world I took die Knie twisted into something unfamiliar.
Married. My voice was barely above a whisper, directed at Lena now. She exhaled but didn't meet my eyes.
It's complicated.
No, Clara cut in smoothly, it's actually very simple.
We belong together.
We have history, we have stability.
I can give you everything she can't.
I wanted to scream, to shove her out of my doorway, to demand that Lena defend me. But I stood frozen, my heart pounding against my ribs. The part of me that was still trying to protect what I had with Lena clung to the hope that she would speak up, choose me without hesitation. Instead, Lena's silence filled the room, a silence heavy enough to crush whatever trust I'd been holding on to. Her eyes flickered between Clara and me, but they didn't settle long enough on either. And I realized, with a sinking feeling, that maybe her choice had already been made. That night, the apartment felt different. The air was heavier, as if Clara's perfume still lingered in the corners, seeping into the walls. I sat at the edge of the bed, my fingers curling and uncurling against the blanket, waiting for Lena to come out of the shower. Every sound, the rush of water, the clink of bottles, felt distant and muffled, like I was underwater. When she finally stepped into the bedroom, her hair damp and skin flushed from the heat, she didn't sit beside me right away. Instead, she stood near the window, arms folded, looking out at the dimly lit street. What do I do, Era? She asked, her voice so casual it could have been about what to eat for dinner. But it wasn't. The question punched the air out of me. My chest tightened, my vision blurring at the edges. She was asking as if my life, our life, was just one option in a menu of possibilities. Something to weigh against Clara's offer. My throat burned, but I forced myself to speak. If you leave me, I said slowly, my voice trembling despite how hard I tried to steady it, I'll remain alone. And it will be very painful. Because no one can support me except you. The words felt raw, stripped of pride. I wasn't bargaining, I was begging. I wanted her to hear the truth in my voice, the depth of what she meant to me. But Lena didn't rush to me. She didn't wrap her arms around me like she used to when I was upset. She just looked down at the floor, her eyes hidden by the fall of her hair. The silence that followed was worse than anything Clara had said. In that silence, the little things I had been brushing aside began to stitch themselves together into a pattern I could no longer ignore. The work calls that stretched late into the night, when she'd step onto the balcony and close the door behind her. The sudden appearance of a sleek, expensive watch on her wrist that she claimed was a company gift. The way her phone seemed to always be in her hand, but tilted away from my line of sight. And lately, during our conversations, her eyes would drift, not with boredom, but with distraction, like her mind was somewhere else entirely. I had told myself these were small things, not worth turning into fights. I had wanted to believe her explanations, to believe we were still the same as we'd been in those first few months. But now, with Clara's words echoing in my head, they felt like pieces of a puzzle I didn't want to complete. She still hadn't answered me. I could feel the distance between us, invisible but impossible to cross. I wanted to reach for her, to shake her into remembering what we'd built, but something in her posture told me she had already started letting go. The fear that crept through me was worse than what I had felt during my divorce. Back then, I had seen the cracks forming long before the end. I had time to prepare for the inevitable. But this felt like having the floor pulled out from under me without warning. One day Lena was my anchor, the next she was standing in front of me, weighing my worth against someone else's. I swallowed hard, trying to push the panic down.
Lena, do you love me?
I asked. She flinched slightly, as if the question startled her, but still didn't meet my eyes. You know I care about you, she said softly. Care. Not love. The choice of words scraped against my chest like broken glass. I realized then that maybe the moment Clara knocked on our door wasn't the beginning of this ending. It had started quietly, in all those little silences, all those unanswered questions. And now here we were, standing in the middle of the life we had built, watching it shift into something unrecognizable. She eventually sat down beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat of her skin, but not touching. We stayed like that for a long time, both staring at the floor, both knowing that whatever came next, it wouldn't be the same. It happened on a Thursday night. The air outside was heavy with the promise of rain, but inside, the apartment felt strangely still. Lena stood near the door, her bag already slung over her shoulder. She wasn't dressed for work, her hair was brushed to a shine, her blouse tucked neatly into tailored pants, the faint scent of perfume trailing after her. I just need some time to think, she said, her eyes darting away from mine. Clara invited me to her suite. We're just going to talk. The words landed in my chest like cold stones. I wanted to tell her not to go, to ask why she needed to think anywhere but here with me. But the part of me that was terrified of pushing her further away kept my mouth shut. Instead, I forced a nod, even though it felt like my head weighed 100 pounds. She's your boss, Lena, I said quietly. This doesn't seem like a good idea. She hesitated for a moment, her lips parting like she might respond, but then she just said, I'll be back tonight. I watched her leave, the door closing behind her with a soft click that sounded much louder in the empty apartment. I sat on the couch, phone in hand, eyes flicking to the clock every few minutes. Midnight came and went. My messages went from casual, are you coming home soon? To worried, is everything okay? To silent. I eventually drifted into a restless sleep, still clutching the phone, still waiting for her name to light up the screen. She didn't come back. The next morning, there was no call, no text. I went to work with a hollow ache in my chest, telling myself she'd explain when she got home. But she didn't come home that night either. Or the one after that. On the third day, I left the office early, hoping maybe I'd catch her at home. Maybe she'd be there waiting with some excuse that could somehow make all of this make sense. Instead, I found myself walking past the glass-fronted lobby of her building. And that's when I saw them. Lena and Clara, stepping out together, laughing at something I couldn't hear. Their hands were linked, not casually, not the way friends might, but in the quiet, intimate way that belonged to lovers. Lena's head tilted toward Clara like it had tilted toward me so many nights, like it was the most natural thing in the world. My feet felt rooted to the ground. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. They didn't see me, and maybe that was for the best. I don't know what I would have done if they had. That evening, a friend from our circle messaged me. I hate to tell you this, but I've seen Lena and Clara out together a few times lately. Fancy places. Expensive wine. She's different with her. Different. The word made my stomach twist. I wanted to believe there was some explanation, some way this wasn't what it looked like. But the truth kept pressing in, suffocating any hope I tried to muster. Then came the twist I wasn't prepared for. Another mutual friend, someone who had known Lena far longer than I had, told me the story I'd never heard. They were together for years, she said over the phone. Lena left Clara once, not because she fell out of love, but because Clara cheated on her. It broke her. She swore she'd never go back. But Clara's rich, Era. She's powerful. She can make life easy for Lena in ways you can't. The words stung, not because they were cruel, but because they were true. I couldn't give Lena the expensive dinners, the tailored clothes, the security of a powerful partner in her professional world. All I had to give her was myself, and apparently, that wasn't enough. I sat there long after the call ended, staring at the wall as if I could will it to crack open and swallow me whole. The grief was heavy, pulling at my chest, but beneath it, something darker began to take root. It wasn't just sadness anymore. It was anger, sharp, hot, and unrelenting. Anger at Clara for showing up at my door like she owned Lena. Anger at Lena for letting her. And anger at myself for not seeing it sooner, for believing the promises that had already started to fade long before Clara returned. The woman I had fallen asleep beside for over a year was gone. In her place was someone who could walk out our door and into another woman's arms without looking back. Someone who had weighed my love against wealth and power, and decided the scale tipped in Clara's favor. And that anger, I realized, might be the only thing strong enough to keep me from falling apart completely. That evening, I sat at my desk, scrolling through the old messages, photos and screenshots I'd once kept as little pieces of love. Now, they were evidence. Every date stamped, every emoji-laced promise, every overlapping timeline between me and Clara. Proof that Lena's transition from me to her boss had been more of a double life than a heartbreak. The idea came to me like a shadow sliding across the room, cold, quiet, inevitable. If she could humiliate me in plain sight, then I could return the favor in a way she wouldn't forget. Not loud or messy. Precise. Surgical. It took 2 nights to prepare. I wrote the anonymous email slowly, carefully, lacing it with just enough truth that no one could dismiss it as bitter ex-drama. Screenshots of her messages to me while she was already spending nights working late at Clara's hotel suite. A photo from just weeks before she left. Her in my kitchen, wearing my shirt, smiling. Then another of her, arm in arm with Clara at a client dinner only 3 days later. When I finally hit send, it didn't go to just one person. It went to their workplace mailing list, to Clara's business partners, to mutual friends who thrived on gossip but dressed it up as concern. The next part wasn't planned, but it was too perfect to resist. A month later, their company held a large public event. Networking, big clients, media coverage. I went. Dressed sharply, not too formal, just enough to look unbothered. I spotted them quickly. Clara in an expensive gown, Lena on her arm, pretending the world wasn't watching. My steps felt rehearsed as I crossed the room, accidentally brushing Clara's shoulder with my drink in hand. "Oh, so sorry," I said lightly, with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Funny seeing you two together. So soon after Lena and I split. I suppose some people just can't waste time when love calls." It was subtle, but in a room full of sharp-eared business sharks, subtlety was a megaphone. A few heads turned. Conversation pause. I drifted away before they could respond, leaving them to swim in the silence that followed. The whispers began almost immediately. I caught fragments, boss and employee. Risky, favoritism, didn't she just? And the looks people gave Clara were no longer purely admiring. By the end of the night, she was visibly tense, scanning the room like she could spot each rumor as it bloomed. Over the next few weeks, I heard things.
A client backing out of a deal.
A partner expressing concerns about internal ethics. Lena, usually so quick to post her glamorous life online, went quiet. I saw her once, outside a cafe, her hair messy, face pale, hands gripping her phone like it might anchor her. She noticed me. For a second, she looked like she might say something. Anything. But she turned and walked away.
I tog ID fel triumphant.
I thought watching their world crack would stitch up my own wounds. But the truth was heavier. The damage was done, yes, but so was I. The emptiness in my chest didn't shrink. If anything, it grew, feeding on the knowledge that revenge doesn't heal, it only echoes the pain back to you. Still, I didn't regret it. It's a quiet Thursday evening when the knock comes. 3 soft taps, almost hesitant, as though the person on the other side isn't sure they're welcome. I'm halfway through folding laundry when I open the door, and there she is. Lena. Her eyes are red-rimmed, her hair a little unkempt, and for a moment, I see the woman I once loved. The one who used to curl up against me on rainy mornings and whisper half-dreamed promises. Era. Her voice is fragile, breaking at the edges. "Can we talk?" I don't answer. I just step aside. She takes it as permission and walks in, her gaze darting around my living room like she's looking for ghosts of herself. We sit. The silence is heavy enough to crush a person. Finally, she says it. Clara ended things. She said she had to protect her reputation. Fired me the same night. Her hands twist together in her lap, knuckles white. I was wrong. I thought she'd always have my back. But when it got hard, she threw me away. She looks up at me then, her voice trembling. I should have stayed with you. The words I once would have died to hear now land like ash on my tongue. I study her, this woman who once claimed she couldn't breathe without me, who chose status and money over us. Her face is pale, thinner than I remember. She looks tired in a way that isn't just physical. I know I don't deserve it, she continues, but I was wondering if we could try again. Please. Once, my answer would have come instantly. Yes, 1,000 times yes. But that was before. Before the nights I cried into my pillow alone. Before I saw her holding hands with someone else like I'd never existed. Before I learned that my love was conditional to her ambition.
I lean back in my chair.
Lena, I say slowly, you left me when I was at my weakest. And now that I've finally found my strength, you want to come back.
Chef
I made a mistake.
No.
My voice is steady now, calm in a way that feels dangerous. You made a choice. Her lips part, but no words come. I don't tell her about the woman I've been quietly seeing for the past few weeks. Maya, with her warm laugh and gentle understanding. Maya, who looks at me like I'm enough without having to prove it. Maya, who met me when my heart was still in pieces but never asked me to be more than I could give. I can't let you back in, Lena, I say finally. Not when I've just started to believe I deserve more than being someone's second option. The silence stretches between us. She stands after a moment, her movements slow, like she's walking through water. At the door she pauses, turns as if she wants to say something else, but then just leaves. This time, I don't watch her go. Later that night, I sit by the window, the city lights blurring into soft halos through the glass. My phone buzzes, Maya's name lighting up the screen. I answer, and her voice is like a bomb. We talk about nothing and everything. The way the moon looks tonight, her disastrous attempt at baking bread, how she accidentally wore mismatched shoes to work. I laugh, really laugh, for the first time in days.
Wen se kol ens, I realize so meeting.
Lena's return didn't shake me. It didn't pull me back under. It just confirmed what I've slowly been learning. Losing her didn't destroy me.
I lean my head back and letse trot settle in my chest, warm and steady.
I was never as alone as she made me feel.